I mean, what if we got it all wrong? We're not here to be happy. The human experience isn't about being happy. Do we make ourselves miserable by thinking that we should be happy all the time? In the modern world, it's not uncommon to hear people say, I just want to be happy. Are you happy? Is she happy? Are they happy? I'm not happy.
Shut up! Shut up!
You might be familiar with the Map of Consciousness by Dr. R. Hawkins, probably in some Instagram post with some spiritual guru or self-professed spiritual person. This is where we insert the cheesy Tesla quote about thinking of the universe in terms of vibration. But it's very much true. There's a whole plethora, but a very distinct amount of emotional states or energetic states that we experience as human beings. So if the quality of our life is determined by the consistent emotions that we are experiencing day to day, then should we not focus our energy on reverse engineering states and energetic places? When we have this abstract idea of happiness, it goes into that human paradox of avoiding displeasure whilst obtaining pleasure. And can you do both at the same time? So maybe we're making ourselves unhappy at the idea that happiness is this destination, that if I had X, Y, and Z, or of better circumstances, or a better roll of the dice, then I'll be happy, without going all fucking Forrest Gump on you. Life is really a mixture of snakes and ladders and chess.
That's the most outstanding answer I've ever heard. You must have a goddamn IQ of 160.
The thinker would like to say the game of life is like chess. You must plan every move. You must have strategy. You must move with poise and with purpose. And you must plan and think ahead. But snakes and ladders is the opportunity and the happenstance that seems to affect us all whilst we're in this material world, which is somewhat unavoidable to some degree. Anyone that's played snakes and ladders know that there's not much strategy that goes into it other than a positive mental attitude that you could still win. You roll the dice, you could start behind on the board and land in an opportunistic part of the ladder that takes you all the way to the top. It's very easy to know when there's decisions and strategies involved where you lost the game. Take chess, for example. Snakes and ladders, it's not. You somewhat enjoy the chaos of the fact you could be losing, and then 1 minute you land on the right thing and boom, you're straight up again. And some of us focus on the element of snakes and ladders and let our emotions be dictated too much by whether it's a ladder or whether it's a serpent's mouth. And others are focused too much on the chess and the strategy that they lose the emotional impetus to even follow through. Now, we could probably hasten to guess that happiness definitely comes after taking the courage to look at things from a more rational point of view. Maybe that's where gratitude comes in, and the practice of gratitude is successful for a lot of people because maybe they're just wanting too much and don't realise what they've got in front of their face. So the key to happiness is first being grateful for what's in fucking front of you, let alone what's behind you or what's next to come. But happiness probably will be in that region somewhere between courage all the way up to joy and maybe peace. Maybe in the way the spiritual gurus talk about it, once you're reaching enlightenment, you don't even want to be happy. You're just a non-entity. You're a jellyfish with a body for the rest of the years that you're here. But to think that you're going to stay in those places and not fall back down given circumstances, yes, we can make the element of them be a bit harder for sure. We can be our own worst enemy when it comes to this stuff. This is known. We can do things that are engineering the chances of being in that latter stage of the process. As opposed to if we could reverse engineer and find a way of being mid-table at least, like a shit football team or a sports club. Be mid-table is like being first for some of us. Be realistic. But if we were to do an assessment to say, hey, where do I sit on a regular basis? If the quality of my emotions determine the quality of my life, where do I sit? And are there things in my life that cause this big rise and fall, like the snakes and ladders? Personally prefer this diagram because it's the idea of it being circular and it constantly moving, which it is. It needs to constantly move. Some of these charts do have, will state happiness is in one of these vibrations, but that one's bollocks. We're not using that. It's propaganda. You shouldn't look at it. It's fake news. First is identifying where you are and where you spend the majority of time. Where do you hang out? What is your default vibration? Of course, we can tune it up and build and contract. We can expand vibrations, but where do we stay and where do we hang out? The next is self-awareness. So once you've identified where you spend the majority of your time, are you aware when that vibration is starting to drop? Can you catch yourself before you plummet or you spiral or you spin back down like snakes and ladders? So you've self-identified where you hang out and you've actually caught yourself as you've got there. You're like, wow, I've just got off at the wrong station. The last one is routing and mapping, because then through the inner work that we do, we know how to get back to at least a more productive or more meaningful or a happier emotional state or vibrational state, right? So you reverse engineer. What do I normally need to do when I feel apathetic? Really, I think the most successful people get very good at just mapping and routing where their desired destinations are, so that when we lose control of the vehicle that's moving us through life, when we go down the snake's mouth or we go up the ladder, that they have a clear way of getting there. But the problem with saying this, everyone should be happy or happiness is a destination, is a fallacy, because it takes us one out of doing the inner work that's required to even manage these emotional states. This is the society we live in. Managing this is really a difference between a child and an adult to some regard, that they're accountable for these energetic states and they do the very best they can within their power, with the information and the ability they've got in front of them to manage this ebb and flow of energy. This fucking fallacy that you just kind of complete it. Oh no, mate, I'm well past pride, mate. I ain't had that since probably about 97, mate. Changed. Or, oh yes, I was very passive aggressive to all my work colleagues, but then once I did ayahuasca with the native people, it all just melted away from me. And sometimes those people are the most insufferable people, and you're thinking, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that for a minute. It's part of the human experience to have these emotions. There's only one time we won't have these thoughts and these feelings and these emotions, and that's pretty morbid. And we don't want to think about that. So whilst we're here, is it our job to say we're here to be happy? Equally, the polarity is that saying we're not here to be happy, we're doomed and we're miserable. There's got to be a medium. And this is where the dark arts come into it, because if this happens on an individual level and there's subjectivity, it's also happening on a collective level. So that's why things like news, media, fear porn, all this stuff that can change our state is so important. It's so about changing people's emotional states. And that's what really the propaganda and the whole machine, the illusory machine that's designed to kind of keep us a little bit kind of apathetic or without will, or all in our feelings, all in our thoughts, and never taking action to try, at least while we're here, to procure some sense of a life that has high levels of joy, high levels of acceptance, eagerness, willingness, peace, and whatever you mean to be enlightenment, as opposed to a life that's riddled with stress, internal stress, disease, dis-ease, pride, anger, desire, always from a place of wanting, always wanting, but never really satiated, right? I can't be satiated. And it's interesting because a lot of those external things, the things that are pushed in the culture, or not necessarily pushed, but they're out there for us to get involved with, right? Even the way social media creates that sense of desire, then that sense of shame, how things like alcohol and drugs can move us up, but also bring us down again. There's lots of ways of hacking this map of consciousness or this energetic vibrations, but there's many ways of trying to anchor ourselves and reverse engineer it, because a lot of that is inner work. No one can tell you how to do it, right? I'm going to tell you how to get to enlightenment. Don't listen to that person. You need to understand what that is for you. There is a little bit of objectivity, of course there is. You can't say I get joy in like causing harm to people, because then you're not quite set in the head, are you? But within reason, you need to have a real clear-cut understanding of how do I work my way back up this energetic vibration. I'm at the moment contracting. I am depressed. That means a constriction from its original sense of the word. How do I expand? Do I put a song on? Do I open the curtains? Do I smell the fresh air? Do I go for a walk? Do I go to the gym? Do I do something? Do I reach out and show courage? But most of us are living in these states where we're identifying with the thoughts, we're not very clear on the feelings, therefore we're kind of in this kind of behavioural cycle of non-action or staleness. And obviously in chess you have a stalemate where the game finishes. You're going to go down this spiral, and you can go up that ladder as well. Be aware of your snake's heads, and you need to be aware of how to find the ladders.